What's up, everybody? It's Punk Rock Talk, episode 15. Today, my guests are the lower class Brats. Bones, to be more specific, who I'm really looking forward to speaking with. You're listening to Just Like Clockwork by the Lower Class Brats. It's on our Spotify playlist, Rebellion Noise 2022. Follow the Havoc on Spotify. Follow the Rebellion Noise 2022 playlist. We update it every week, every Monday, with songs that correlate with whoever we're going to be interviewing on this show that Wednesday. It's a good way for you to discover some artists that maybe you haven't heard of before, or revisit some classics that you haven't listened to in a long time. If you missed an episode of Punk Rock Talk, no need to worry. They're available on the Havoc's YouTube channel. We upload the latest episode to our channel every Thursday. So this episode will be uploaded tomorrow. Subscribe to the Havoc's YouTube channel if you have not done that yet. We're always working on new content to post there, not just this. And you'll get notified the moment we post something new there if you're subscribed. Speaking of the Havoc, next Friday, April 29th, we will be playing our comeback show in Los Angeles. I'm going to show you this flyer. Boom! There it is. This show is also a music video shoot for us for an upcoming single that we're going to release. If you would like to be in the video, make sure you get there early. We're encouraging everybody to be there at doors so that they can get on camera for that. And of course, whenever we're performing, you want to be in the crowd. But you need to be there at doors anyway. You need to be supporting all these other bands that are playing, not just us. We are playing in the middle of the night. We're not playing at the end of the night. So if you're planning to come, you want to make sure that you are there with plenty of time. You don't want to miss our set because you show up late. All right. Are you in a band? Do you need merchandise? Dead and Buried Inc. are your source. You can find them here on Instagram. Their handle is at Dead and Buried Inc. INC, that is INC, not INK. Or on their website, deadandburiedinc.com. Again, that's INC, not INK. Before I get Bones on here, if you have a question that you would like to submit for this interview, tap that question mark icon on your screen and you can submit your question there. Please don't put them in the comments section. They get lost there. I don't see them. The comments just fly by. I don't have enough time to read them or try and go back and read them. So again, if you would like to ask Bones a question, just tap that question mark icon. And make sure you stick around to the end of this episode when I will announce next week's guest. Having said that, I'm going to go ahead and send the invitation to the Brats. Here we go. I'm really looking forward to this interview. There we go.
Hey, bud.
Bones, what's up, buddy?
How you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Good. Yeah, good to see you too. Thank you for taking the time today to be a part of Punk Rock Talk. Excited for this interview. There's a lot that we can talk about, not just about the band, but about you. So I want to jump right into it, man. I've got to ask this because I'm just curious. why Bones? What generated the nickname? Where did it come from? Is that something from your youth?
Um, so, I'm Bones from Lower Class Brats. All right. So, the nickname Bones was actually when I was a kid, my dad started calling me Bones when I was young, when I was like 10, 11 years old. And, he had a lot of nicknames for me. And, some of them I didn't like, but Bones ended up sticking, and getting into the punk scene later on, it just was like, wow, I already came with a nickname, you know what I mean? So that you can thank my dad for that one. I've always just been really skinny, and so it just kind of stuck and it stayed, uh, yeah. So that came from my dad. Either way.
So, talking about you as a kid, I really like to ask all the guests about, what kind of kid they were and kind of what led them into the punk scene. Did they come from a musical family? Uh, what kind of kid were they like? Where did you grow up? Those kinds of things. So, give us a little bit of background information about what you were like growing up.
What I was like growing up. Um, so I grew up in San Diego. Um, uh, I lived here till I was 21. I grew up in a place called El Cajon, which is the East County, San Diego. Um, and my family life, my parents were divorced at a very early age. When I was about 6, they got divorced, and which was not not very common in the 70s. This happened in 1976. They got divorced, and so it was really kind of strange being a little kid in school and starting second grade and first grade and or whatever it may be, coming from a divorced family. You got there was a lot of stigma that came with that on kids, and not to mention, I'm sure the adults too. I wouldn't know. So um, I moved around a lot. It was always here in San Diego, but I was in different places, mostly all over East County, and so things were a little rougher. I didn't really have a settled place to live. I was being back and forth between parents and multiple schools, sometimes 3 schools a year, and made for you know I can't really compare it to anything else. It's just the way I grew up. But I had loving parents on both sides. Um, uh, Things happen. With your parents. My mom, I had always talked to. My dad, things got really weird. I didn't talk to him for about shit. God, it's been about 20 years. I don't think I talked to him. But the thing is, with my dad, um, he is where I got my musical inspiration from, and which is really strange, juxtaposition. You know, you would think that I would be rebelling against anything that he was, that he liked. But my dad, when when I was a kid, my dad used to. Well, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I had asked my mom one time. I was listening to the band Mad Parade. Okay, and this might have been late 80s, something like that. And I'm listening to this 12-inch, the first 12-inch, and it has a cover of a song called One Tin Soldier. Okay. One Tin Soldier is a cover by a band that it was a really popular song. The year I was born was 1969. and it was a very popular song. It's by a band called The Original Cast. And I'm listening to the song and I'm like, how do I know every fucking word to the song? It was weird. It was real. I mean, from the time I played it, I know this song. I know every word to it. How do I know this? And I remember asking my mom about it, and I was living with her at the time, and she told me that my dad, when I was a baby, would put me in my little bassinet and set me on the kitchen table, and he would sing One Tin Soldier to me every night before I went to bed. And you know, these things kind of, you know, this musical inspiration. My dad is a brilliant guitar player. He has a wonderful voice. Um, he sounds like who is it? Um, John Denver, right?
Okay.
And you know, it's like you can say what you want about John Denver, but you know, it's like John Denver was John Denver, and if you do your research about John Denver before you just go, oh, my parents, my grandparents liked him. John Denver was a badass.
Yeah, he
Do
was.
your you do your research on all that shit that happened with the PMRC and Twisted Sister, and he was there right next
He
to
was
him
there
fighting with them, man.
advocating for artists. Yes, he
Yeah,
was.
yeah, he was a badass. So this musical inspiration, you know, I never learned to play guitar, and but vocally, I took after my dad wanting to sing, and I found out later on in life that my dad, out of high school, was in a band, and you know, in the mid '60s, and he wanted to go on tour, and he wanted to be in a band and go on tour, and my grandfather wouldn't let him. He said, no, you're going to come. You know, my grandfather owned an auto shop in El Cajon, and my dad went and worked there. And as far as I knew, my dad worked there forever. He worked there when I was born, and the place just shut down maybe about 5-10 years ago. You know, the auto parts store is not there anymore. It's now a t-shirt factory place. But yeah, so that musical stuff definitely comes from my dad. Upbringing was kind of strange, you know, but then again, like I said, I have nothing to compare it to. So, you know, grass is always greener, right?
Right.
You know, but I know everyone comes from their own little hell, you know. Mine's no better than anybody else's. You know, we all had problems growing up. So
Totally. Yeah, I think that this scene is comprised of so many people that for whatever reason they're attracted to the things that are kind of on the outside that the rest of society is like, ooh, we don't want to go over there.
right.
Um, I know that was certainly the appeal for me, you know, growing up in a really conservative household where a lot of those things were just not, I wouldn't say like forbidden, but they weren't there. They weren't available. And so once
Right.
those things kind of started coming into my vision, I'm like, oh, wow, I want to know more about that.
Sure.
Uh, what was that process like for you? What was kind of the first like punk band that got on your radar where you were like, wow, that's something different, and I want to know more about it?
Well, I I can't really say that it was punk. Um, it definitely let's put it this way, the growing up in the '70s, being a kid, my whole life was Kiss and AC/DC. You know, it was rock and roll, and about 1980, a friend's older brother had the very first Specials LP. So, and this guy, he was a mod guy, you know, and my friend's older brother, and we just kind of took after that. So it was the Specials and the Jam and the Selector and Bad Manners and you know, Secret Affair and you know, the Chords, like, you know, all these mod and ska bands, and that's what I got into. That's what got me out of arena rock, you know. And I'm like, oh wow, you know, it showed me this thing of like, there's other shit out there besides these bands that you see plastered on the side of Tower Records, or whatever it may be. Sorry, I'm dating myself. But Sam Goody, Licorice Pizza. So, it was basically the Specials' first LP. A year or two later, the same guy, his name was Alan, is my friend Chris's older brother, and Alan had what was it as Jealous Again. And so I remember me and Chris listening to that, and it's all over now. I'm diving down the rabbit hole at this point, right? And so by 82, 83, my head was shaved and I had engineering boots, and I was like 12 or 13 years old, so it was all over from then. Punk was my life, and I just fell in love with it. But it is kind of strange that I got into punk through the mod and ska scene, of like, which was huge down here, so that was my shuffle over. I remember having to when you do this when you're a kid, it's funny because I'm sure a lot of people that are watching or listening can relate, and maybe you too, that you take these all your records that you had, right, and you have to cleanse yourself of this. You have to get rid of them all. It's like it's all going away. There goes ELO out of the blue. Boom, out of the blue, dude. It's gone. I played frisbee with all these records. I mean everything. I got rid of everything, and it was my life was different now, and I regret a lot of getting rid of all of that shit. All my Kiss records are gone. All the dolls, all the lunch boxes, all the AC/DC T-shirts, everything was gone, and it was punk from here on out. And so kids getting into it, if you still have those old records, hold on to them because you're going to want to listen to them later on. So don't do what a lot of us did by cleansing yourself of that.
No, I can definitely relate. I went through that same process. And I think it's just kind of part of the journey because, like you said, so many of us do it. But I feel like in some ways it's kind of necessary, like, because when you get into this lifestyle, it is essentially that. It's a lifestyle. It becomes a part of your identity.
Oh, sure.
And you're kind of baptizing yourself with this music and the culture by doing that. But at this stage of my life, I mean, I'm a very, very open-minded person, especially when it comes to music. I love all types of different genres, and I kind of despise the whole elitist attitude in any genre. And I think a lot of that has to do with being a musician also. But you mentioned Kiss, and I know that's one of your favorite bands, and I've seen people shit talk you for it. I've seen people shit talk you for it on social media.
Give a fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
I think it's hilarious that people, will be like, why do you even like that band or whatever?
Right.
And funny enough, last week's interview with Mike Defiance, he brought up Kiss multiple times, which kind of caught me off guard. I was not expecting the conversation to go in that direction. But it kind of got me more excited for this week because I knew that we were going to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. We'll talk about it.
But having said all that, now that we know a little bit about like kind of what got you into the scene and everything, what was it that led you to starting a band and wanting to be a front man and that whole process?
Well, when I was a kid, I getting into the punk scene was I noticed right away that there's something about punk rock that isn't like any other type of music. And that being the fact that if you want it, you have to give back to it. You know, that's the law of punk. You have to give back to it. And so what I did was at a very early age, even before I started going to shows, I think it was about late 82, early 83, I started doing a fanzine. And I was picking up these fanzines at the local record shops at Blue Meanie and Off the Record. And I fell in love with I love print, you know, print magazines, but that's my generation also. So I started doing that. I wanted to give back to something that was like, it was something that was teaching me something. You know, I learned a lot from punk rock, you know, and just, you know, reading lyrics, you know, it's like, you know, I discovered who Pol Pot was, you know, from Dead Kennedys, you know, and I remember asking my teachers about Pol Pot, and they would not talk about it. You know, this is the kind of current issues that are happening, you know, Dead Kennedys are putting out songs about this. They don't teach you about that stuff, you know, and, you know, you know, Misfits, I learned what somnambulance meant, right? You know, from Night of the Living Dead. What the fuck does somnambulance mean? And you look it up, and these things, they taught me things, you know, and I wanted to give back to it. So starting a fanzine and doing something, you know, that made me feel better about the scene I was in was important to me. And moving forward, doing these fanzines, in between this time, I was trying to start bands. And I started my first band, was a little early on. We were just kind of, you know, fucking around, you know, and we all have those bands where, you know, it's like you're 15, your friend's got some bongo drums, and you put the tape recorder down, you're slamming this electric guitar and just trying to make racket and make something, you know, and it's always terrible, you know, but about 1988, my the first real band that I had was a band called Horror Show. And it was a play on, you know, Clockwork Orange still back then, but that didn't last very long. But I caught the bug, you know. I'm like, oh, I want to do this. You know, this is, you know, fuck the fanzine stuff. You know, I want to do this. And so around that time, a couple years later, I ended up moving to Austin, Texas, and I still I wanted to do a band, but I didn't know anyone there. So I started doing a fanzine again. I started booking shows. I helped book a lot of really great bands that came through Austin, you know, and Bikini Kill and Econochrist and Gigi Allen. Bikini Kill and Gigi Allen, right? I helped book both those shows at the same club. It was really strange, but like all these great bands, you know, that would come through, and Spit Boy and, you know, Tribe 8 and, you know, all these really cool bands. But I ended up, you know, meeting Marty, and that's when things kind of took off, you know.
Awesome. I definitely want to talk more about the early days of the Brats. But I'm noticing a bit of a lag on your end. It's kind of choppy on my screen. So I just want to try and see if we can get a better connection. So if you'll do me a favor and just exit the chat by hitting that X in the top right corner, and then I'll send you the invite again, and let's see if we can get a better connection so we can continue on.
You got it, bud.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. If you have questions for Bones, click that question mark icon there on your screen. I see a few of them have come through already, and we're going to get to those here in just a little bit. I just wanted to see if we could get a better connection with him, so I'm going to go ahead and send the invite again and see what we can do here.
How's that?
I think it's better. So
Okay.
far, so good.
All right.
Um, so meeting Marty Volume and forming the Brats. The Brats are known for having uh, this identity or theme that's tied to A Clockwork Orange. Um, was that solely your idea, or is that you and Marty brainstorming? It's a theatrical approach to a certain degree, so I can only imagine that some of the Kiss influence may have contributed to that.
Yeah. So I've always had this, like I said prior, that the band I was in, a horror show. I've had this obsession with Clockwork Orange since I was a kid. And when I was in ninth grade in high school, our English teacher had the whole class read the book, and which would never happen nowadays, ever. I don't even think they have it in high schools. I don't even think you can check it out. Don't know. I'm not sure. But they had us read it, and the reason that my teacher, that she had us read it, was to go through the NADSAT language, and so we could understand people in their vernacular when they talk to us, right? And you're talking to someone with their English is not whatever, you get the gist of what they're saying, and she would quiz us on what's he saying right here, and don't read the glossary, don't read, it's like. And so we read this book, and I'm just like, oh man, it's fucking brutal, dude. This is so great, I love this book. um and I saw the movie. I went out and rented the movie right away, when we were reading the book, and I watched the movie. Just, not as great as the book, but that influence carried on with me, so getting out of high school, when that band started in '88, horror show. When the Brats started, it wasn't a direct linkage to Clockwork Orange. The first single has nothing to do with it. Who Writes Your Rules? There's no songs about Clockwork Orange. There's no logo on there. There's nothing that would reference it whatsoever. This came a bit later. Second single, Ultraviolence. That's when it set the road for Clockwork Orange. And this was something that we had talked about when Who Writes Your Rules came out. And I mentioned it to Marty, because there were, the band's great bands, you got Coxbar, The Addicts, Major Accident, these all sorts of bands but none of them were playing right now. None of them were playing in the 90s. And I think The Addicts had come through one time in like 90. I think it came through 94 maybe, but it was a weird time, and it was a weird time for punk in general, and oi, there's a lot of bands coming out, but there was also, the punk scene was kind of dead, and it was resurging around that time. And I'm like, let's fucking do this. There's no other bands that are doing this right now, and I fucking love it. And let's kind of go forward. We get a lot of comparisons to the Addicts and, things like that. Addicts, especially the Addicts. And, but I tell you a little secret. I love the Addicts, and I love those guys. And, they're great friends, and we've done a lot of shows together. The influence came from Major Accident. But the whole thing is that and I love the guys in Major Accident, and great guys, but it was more stemmed from there, more of a violent approach. And we're an oi band, and where it's not glitter, it's a fucking boot. So that's where this influence kind of came in a harder shell, a little bit more disturbing than a band like the Addicts. But what I really want to point out though too is that, and I've talked about this with the guys in Major Accident, the guys in the Hat Trickers, the guys in the Addicts, and no one's ripping anybody off at all whatsoever, because we all ripped it off from the same place. You know what I mean? No one band is taking it from another band.
Right.
And the thing with Clockwork Orange is that being this cult film that fits in with punk and skinhead culture is a really important film. It deals with young kids forming gangs because they have no one else. Their influences come from music and drugs and alcohol. Alcohol, but the drugs and the milk, right?
Right.
This parallels so much with the punk culture, and trying to find your place and find who you are, and making all these terrible mistakes. The anti-hero in the film is a terrible fucking person. Wow, what a terrible person this guy is. It's insane. And no one's emulating this.
Right.
No one wants to emulate these things ever. But the fact, if you take the whole film and put it all together, and the meaning of the film, the brainwashing by the government, and it's like wanting to make your own choices in life, whether they be good or bad. You made that choice. That's important. It's important for everyone, and so this is what I get out of Clockwork Orange. This is what I take out of it, and this is what I put back into the music and the songs and things like that. So but yeah, to answer the immediate question, there was I can take some of the credit for the Clockwork Orange bullshit that goes on in the band. So let's just leave it at that.
It really is kind of interesting that in Clockwork Orange, like you said, Alex, he's the anti-hero, but he's also the one person in the movie who is just unapologetically himself, whether that be dangerous, vile, or beautiful at times. And I think that is so much what punk rock culture represents. Being true to yourself and unapologetically.
Right.
And I love that there is a community of people that go through a lot of the same things growing up, like you and I have gone through. And then there's this music that encourages them to continue down that path of just being themselves.
Right.
Even if the world hates you for it. And I think it's cool that you aren't just using that gimmick or that theme for the band to look cool. You understand the relevance of the message, and you're applying that to the message of the band.
100%. 100%. Yeah. I could sing about fucking bowler hats all day long, It's like, who gives a fuck, Put a message in there, make it say something, and my mom once, she's like, oh, when you gonna write your book, right? Moms always ask that shit, right? When you write your book? I'm like, I'm writing it, Mom. I've been writing it for years. Just open up the records and read the lyrics, This is shit that's happened. This is real, So but yeah, definitely applying all of that to it's not just a gimmick. It's something that is that I took out of that film. More so the book. I'm not sure if you've read the book. But the 21st chapter in the book that's not in the film takes Alex on this journey after he gets out of the hospital. And he comes to. He starts another gang, starts doing all this shit. And then he sees this woman with a child. He's like, I want to have a kid. I want to grow up. You let people be. Let them grow. Let them do what they need to do. If someone does something bad, there are consequences. Those consequences should come. But, to brainwash people, to make them think how you want them to think. No, it doesn't work that way. And we need to think for ourselves, and there's, take this back to who writes your rules, right? Kind of comes full circle then, either way.
I'd like to take a moment and see what some of these audience questions are.
Mm-hmm.
I have more of my own, of course, but a lot of times the questions that I want to ask are actually asked by the audience. So if you're
Let the kids have their say.
If you're out there right now and you have a question, tap that question mark icon and submit it there. Let me see here. Okay, this is an interesting one. This comes from Jonathan138. How did lip music and New Seditionaries end up on MTV's Robin Big?
Oh, yeah. Huh. So we were on New Seditionaries. Originally came out on TKO Records. It's the label that we work with again now. And they were doing everything in their power they made us their flagship band when we joined. And I am so grateful and honored for that. And they did everything in their power to try and get our music out there. I believe, okay, I can't say for sure because I wasn't the one on the phone doing this wheeling and dealing. I believe that they were offered up to MTV to be used, and Rob, I don't know his last name, the skater guy. What's that?
It's Rob Deerdick or Deirdrick.
Rob Deirdrick, something like that. Yeah, he does that other show now, the kind of video show or whatever, yeah. I think. Or maybe not now, but he did after that. That he was the one that got to pick out the music. And they offered up, basically the LP, and he picked out those two songs to use in the show. I was kind of beside myself when it happened. I'm like, oh shit, I wish I had a DVD of it just to have in my little archives. But the fact that he liked the music enough to put it in there was great. And we're like, all right, when are we going to see those residuals, right? Robin Big, we're on MTV. We got a check at our P.O. box from MTV. And I thought, oh shit. It was for 27 cents from Robin Big Show. And I tore it up and I threw it in the trash. I was so pissed. I'm like, what the fuck? Fuck you guys. And, in my head, I'm thinking, this has nothing to do with Rob, right? Or Big. These are suits at MTV, and I'm just like, motherfuckers. But yeah, I think the Smut Peddlers were in it too. Also, they had some songs in there who were also on TKO. They were pushing the Smut Peddlers. So yeah, that's the whole Robin Big debacle there in a nutshell. So appreciate the question.
As sad as 27 cents is, at least it's not as bad as a fraction of a penny per stream.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. Fucking exactly. lowerclassbrats.bigcartel.com, not Spotify.
Okay, let's see. Here's another one. Who are your top 3 favorite bands from the U.S. to tour with? Question comes from Spirit of Oi 81.
All right. Man, you gonna put me in a corner here? Top 3 bands from the U.S. to tour with. That's a rough one. I'm gonna have to say, because we have played more shows with these guys than any other band since we have been a band and toured with them more. I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, but I'm going to have to say that one of my favorite bands to tour with is the Casualties. And, we've known these guys, us and the Casualties have been tight since day one, since day one. And we've toured with them a lot. I like it's comfortable being on the road, with Jake and Meggers and Rick and even now Dave. And, I've known Dave for a long, long time, and I knew Dave when he was a little bus boy with little green spiky hair or blue spiky hair the first time I met him. He was a teenager. But you see the Casualties, definitely. Thinking about some of the funnest tours I've had with American bands that I really enjoyed being on the road with. And I'm not just name dropping at this point, but definitely the Circle Jerks and the Adolescents. So those three bands, Casualty, Circle Jerks, and Adolescents. Reason being for the Adolescents, some of the best, nicest, most kind people you'll ever meet. I remember being halfway through tour and they're like, hey, we've been practicing this in the van just so we could play it and add it to our set. And they started adding Brats Battalion to their set. And I was just like, oh, wow, that's fucking cool of you. They're like, no, we want to do it for you guys, So cool. Circle Jerks being that, contrary to popular belief, Keith Morris is a fucking awesome dude. He really, really is. He gets a bad rap sometimes. I know because he's abrasive and he speaks his fucking mind because he tells the truth, and a lot of people don't like that. So, but he is one of the coolest people ever. When we did our first show with them, we met them up in Dallas, and they had these two green rooms, right? And when you walked upstairs, there was kind of like a lounge area, and that was ours. And then they had a door and it said Circle Jerks only. And that was the door into their green room. And so we're sitting out there and we're peeking in their little green room, like, what the fuck they got in there, and it's like, man, they got booze and they got Cokes and they got fucking all this, they got all this food. And we're sitting out, we shut the door, whatever. And we're just sitting out in our little lounge area with our case of water. And Keith walked upstairs. I'm like, oh, fuck, it's Keith Morris, man. It's so cool, and I'm like, I hope he's not going to be a dick. and he was not. And he was the coolest guy. And he walked up and he saw that sign on that green room door and he ripped it down. And he goes, we're on tour together. This is punk rock. It's like, we share everything. We are one band from this point on. And it was one of the greatest feelings ever, man, to have someone of that stature, someone that I've admired since I was, 12 years old, to be that kind and that nice, to where it's like there was no rock star attitude. It was awesome. So those three bands.
Cool. That's awesome to hear that kind of camaraderie exists, like with bands that, like you said, he kind of has a reputation of being a dick. And it's like, that just shows the complete opposite.
Definitely.
Let's see here. This question comes from Sclubby Band. Does the whole band now live in San Diego? How did you get Marty and company to move back with you?
Oh, okay. So, all right. So what happened was, when the band was still in Texas, Marty had when we were actually in Las Vegas. This is going to kind of come in a little circle here. When we were in Vegas, Marty, a friend of mine, had come out. This girl Selena, who I'd known since high school, had come out and and to support the band and just, you know, hang out. And Marty and her ended up kind of hooking up, you know, and I've known this girl, you know, shit, since I've been into punk, you know, and great lady. And they ended up hooking up. She lives out here in San Diego. She was living in Chula Vista. And so they hit it off, and they were having this long distance relationship from Austin to San Diego. And Marty ended up telling me, he's like, I'm going to move to San Diego. I'm in love with her, and I want to go out there, and I want to marry her, and I'm like, you do you, dude. Go for it. You know, it's like, we can still do the band. It's not a big deal. Move out there. And around the same time, Ron Martinez, our bass, Ron Conflict, had moved back home out to Los Angeles. And so me and our drummer, Punt, Eric Powers, was we were just kind of living in Austin. It's like, we don't know what's going on. We were flying out for rehearsals, flying out to LA, and we were practicing Buena Park, where we still practice. And I just kind of said, fuck it, I'm going. I want to move home, you know, and I saved up some money, and I took off, and I moved back out to San Diego to, you know, I'm like, let's do the band out here, out in Southern California. I want to be home. One of the biggest reasons I stayed in Austin was to keep the band going, right? That was one of the biggest reasons. And I'm like, well, we can do it anywhere. It doesn't matter. So we moved out to, I moved back out here to San Diego. Ron and Marty were already out here. Punt ended up moving to up north and up to San Jose. And he was flying down for rehearsals. He soon kind of bowed out. We got the drummer, Nick Bratt. He's also the drummer for Final Conflict and Channel 3. And he's been with us for, you know, since we moved back out here. And along with our newer guitarist, Zed. And, but in answer to the question, there are only two of us in San Diego. Now only one, because Marty and Selena have moved to, guess where? Las Vegas.
Oh, Las Vegas.
Where they met.
Nice.
There's the circle. So, so they're out in Vegas now. Marty is actually in the process of moving out there, and he got a really good job building stages. It's a lot of fabrication, so he makes these crazy stages for Kiss and Cher and you know, Motley Crue and the hydraulics and all this stuff. He helps put these, you know, get these stages built so they can be sent on the road, and he does that out in Vegas now. So,
what a cool gig!
Yeah, so it's only me here in San Diego. Yeah, but I am back home. So.
Okay, I'm going to do two more audience questions before we move on. This one comes from our friends over at Punkcore Catalog. It says, what is going on with the new album? Is there new music? What's going on?
You know what? Punkcore Catalog, whoever you are. DH. I remember that off the thing because I'm like, is this Dave Amcher running this? No, it's not Dave Amcher.
It's not Dave.
It's not Dave. I thought it was. You almost fooled me, Punkcore Catalog. But I pulled something out to assure everybody that's watching here that there is new music coming out. Here's the test pressing for the new single.
Woo!
It's called All the Young Dudes Are Pissed. The B-side is a song called We Never Sleep. It's about my cats. Dig it. So we got the test pressing right here, guys. There is new music coming out. After the single comes out, there will be the new LP, which is already recorded. All layout's done. Everything's done. It's called Tales. I can't remember the title now. Tales of the Wild, the Ugly, and the Damned. So that should be should be coming out soon. And if anyone that's listening right here can tell me the reference to The Wild, the Ugly, and the Damned, then I'll give you a thumbs up. How about that?
That leads me to my question before I do one more audience question. It's been a long time since we've gotten new Brats music. Why the long pause?
Well, there's been a lot of changes going on. You know, there's a lot of changes in life. Life happens when you get your 50s. You know, there's been a lot of changes. Like, you know, I've been asked this question a lot, why there was so much going on in the first 5 years of the band, man. There was everything, all this stuff came out, and then it just kind of dropped off. Recording wise, we never stopped touring. We never stopped playing. I believe that, you know, us and the Casualties, out of all those bands, are the only two bands that really just kept fucking going.
Yeah.
But that aside, the reason for this happening is it's not getting burnt out. It's not anything like that. It's just life starts happening. People start having kids. People get married. People just don't want to do it anymore. They get older. They're just like, I'm changing, man. I would rather, you know, be listening to Billy Joel all day. Sorry. Nothing against Billy Joel. I love Billy Joel. Sorry. But, you know, people change, and that's okay. It's all right. You know, and nothing was done on purpose. We kept writing, you know, some of the stuff just didn't meld. And when you write with certain players and then someone moves or leaves the band, 90% of the time we will trash those songs that we were writing with them, because we're not going to disrespect them by keeping playing their stuff when they have just left the band and it hasn't been recorded yet. So there was a lot of this going on, and yeah, I guess that's about it. I think that answers the question. You know?
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to do one more audience question before I move on with a few more of my own. There's a lot of audience questions, so I'm sorry that I'm not getting to all of them. This one comes from DJ Reese 3. Who is your favorite Kiss member?
My favorite Kiss member? Hands down, it's got to be Ace Frehley. You know, I mean, I've never met the dude. I don't know anything about, you know, well, I do know about him. I mean, the guy's kind of a prick, you know, so, but that being said, you separate the person from their art, and I look at the art, and Ace was he was the man behind the band. You know, you had these front guys and Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, and then you got Peter Criss, you know, and then you got Peter Criss. No one wants to be Peter Criss, Lois. Reference was Ace Frehley was the one that he designed the makeup for the guys. He designed the Kiss logo. He was the aloof guitar player that that ripped off all of Johnny Thunder's moves, you know, but it was the style. He had style, and that is just, you know, style from Ace Frehley is it's impeccable, especially in his heyday, you know, back in the mid 70s. And you know, I went to go see him recently out here, and it was kind of a joke, you know, but he still has that slide and that stagger and that kind of just cool guy, you know, and he's like, but definitely Ace Frehley. Yeah, definitely Ace.
Well, we're going to ask some more Kiss questions here in a little bit. For everyone in the audience that's watching, we're going to do a short Kiss trivia segment here in just a little bit with Bones. If you don't like Kiss and you want to leave the chat, that's your loss. Go fuck yourself. Because we're going to talk about Kiss. But before we do that, you talked a lot about imagery and style and all of that in regards to Ace Frehley and Kiss. That same thing applies to the Brats, and I have some questions specifically about that. One of them being, who is the artist that came up with the mascot design?
I did.
You drew that.
I drew that. Yeah.
That's very cool. I didn't know that you were an artist and did draw. Is that just another hobby of yours?
Yeah. You could say that. I've done so the original design was painted on I painted it on the back of my friend's jacket back in the 80s, and it's the same straight Droog skull, but it was he wanted his finger up, so it has the thing instead of the two fingers, the piss off thing, it had one finger up, and he wanted an 8-ball spinning on it. So I painted an 8-ball spinning on the finger, and it was on the back of his jacket. And it was just a sketch that I did while sitting on riding the trolley here in San Diego as a teenager, and I was just drawing on the trolley, and I came up with that design with the Droog skull and the big eyelashes and real bulbous kind of almost real cartoony looking stuff, but also took a lot from like Pusshead, I've always loved his art. I mean, if you're a punk rocker and you're an artist, you love Pusshead. It's just, if you like rock and roll, right? Yeah. I mean, he's done fucking shit for Rush, he's done shit for Tupac. Huh?
Metallica.
Well, most of all Metallica, right? Yeah. And so, it's like, if you're into rock and roll at all, his artwork. But as a kid in the 80s, he was still a bit underground, and he's just starting to do stuff for Metallica, and I think the first thing he did for Metallica was the Damage Incorporated with the crossed bats, or whatever, the skull, or the bat and the skull. But yeah, I had come up with that while riding the bus. So it's, and it's changed a little bit. The Droog skull's changed. It didn't appear on any releases. The first release it appeared on was Punk Skin's Herberts and Hooligans 12-inch. It's the first appearance of the Droog skull on the back cover. We took away the hand and added the safety pins when we did a class of our own. That design's been redone because it looks kind of goofy when you look at it. The safety pins are just look like huge balloons behind them, which that was actually done by Jared the Virus. Did that and
cool.
Put the safety pins behind him, and for that release. Jared probably did your layout for your release on Punkcore too. I believe, yeah.
We had a friend of ours put together a draft that we wanted, and then we sent it to Punkcore, and Jared took the draft and kind of finalized it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know something funny, when A Class of Our Own came out, we told Dave that we wanted a black cover, and then in silver, what do you call it, embossed silver, kind of chrome looking, and when you turn the light, we wanted a massive chrome razor blade on it. And that was going to be A Class of Our Own. He's like, dude, I just signed this band called The Havoc, and we're putting out their record, and it's got a huge razor blade on the cover. I'm like, motherfuckers, God damn it. So we ended up just putting a huge Droog skull with the big one safety pin behind him.
Do that. That is fucking hilarious.
Truth.
I'm kind of glad that the conversation is steering in this direction, because I did want to at least touch on it a little bit about the Punkcore days. I've talked about this pretty frequently on this show. That era, I kind of refer to it as like the golden age of street punk. I just feel like the scene at that time was kind of just like culminating into this really massive movement that was, really driven by street punk.
Mm-hmm.
and the lower class Brats next to I'm trying to remember which other band, but you guys have more releases on there than almost any other band.
Do we?
Yeah,
Not the Casualties, I don't believe.
I think it is you and the Casualties that have the most releases on Punkcore.
Right.
But what was the dynamic like working with Dave and Punkcore Records back then, and what was kind of like the inner dynamic with the band because things were moving so rapidly?
Yeah, things were moving really quick. So our relationship with Dave, my relationship with Dave, um, was amazing. Me, we were great friends, amazing friends. Dave is a really good guy, and I haven't talked to Dave in a long time. It's been years. Like I say, people move on and they do their own thing, and they do other things. And I haven't spoken with Dave in quite a while, but our relationship back in the '90s was impeccable. Uh, he used to fly to Austin, and he would just come and hang out at my house, and we would, like when the Punkskins, Herberts, and Hooligans 12-inch came out, what happened was he had written us a letter in the mail, and I picked it up at the PO box. He asked if we had any more songs left from, because we'd only putting out those 3 singles. We put out Who Writes Your Rules, Ultraviolence, the split with the Reducers, and A Wrench in the Gear. So he's like, do you have any more songs beside those? And so those 3 7-inches were actually 2 separate demo tapes. Okay. And they became 3 singles. We had songs left over. And we had, the songs that became the Punkskins, Herberts, and Hooligans 12-inch of 5 songs on there. And there was actually another one that was on our first demo tape. We did a cover of Loud, Proud, and Punk by The Business. And that has never seen a release. But if you find the demo tape, it is on the demo tape. We could just kind of keep like to keep little things little, you know what I mean? And it's like, not that it's not a good song and it didn't come out great. I mean, I love it. I think it's a great version, but yeah, we just, it's kind of fun just to have that, find the demo. I'm sorry, I lost track.
All
Jump
good.
back on me. Jump back on me. I lost track.
No, it's all good. I was just, I had asked, kind of what the dynamic was like within the band at that time too, because things were moving so quick.
Right. Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, we're Dave and the band at that time. So me and Dave were great friends. He took us out to the East Coast. Was our very first time leaving Texas, and so we went out to the East Coast to go tour with the Devotchkas. They ended up not playing any of the shows. They came out to a couple, and nice people, very very cool. And but we ended up doing the shows alone. The band, it got kind of rough. Things started getting a little rougher around that time. We're starting to move into, we're having fun doing this band together and we're having this great time and everyone loves the music, to, okay, now the things are becoming work and now we have to work together. Being on the road is work. It's a job and you do your job. And some of us didn't want to do their job. And some of us, we fought with each other. We made, poor decisions in our interactions with each other. And by the time that we were recording all these singles and doing all this stuff, our bass player, Rick, who passed away a couple years ago, Rick Bratt, our original bass player, me and him started having these issues. And Rick had left the band for a while. The Psycho single is actually not him playing bass on it. It's a guy named Houston Richardson from Austin. and but out of respect for Rick, we've still put his name on there, which became a double-edged sword because the whole thing with my buddy Houston and not giving him credit on there was really fucked up. And I regret that. I'm sorry to him, for that. But either way, Rick did write those songs. They were his songs, or helped us write them. Things started getting a little choppy when we toured Europe for the first time. We were out with this band called Skinhead band from Ireland, who actually the bass player Bino became in another punkcore band, Blood and Whiskey. And if anyone is watching right now from England, they know who the fuck Bino is. Bino runs Rebellion Festival. Everyone knows Bino. Bino's a great dude. But we were going out on tour with those guys. That was in 2000. It split the band. We already had a new drummer come in because Rob Brad, our original drummer, had gotten married and kind of moved on with his life. And me and Rick went at it in Europe. And by the time we got home, we had to go on another tour with the Unseen. And Marty and I had no rhythm section. And so we got a couple guys to come play with us. And, things got really rough. But all this being said, there, with the exception of maybe one person, there's no one that has ever played in the Brats that we have bad blood with. Never. Ever, ever, ever. There might have been something at the time, but things have been talked and everything worked out and people just moved on. And everyone was friends. Everyone has been friends, and I'm really glad that me and Rick, our original bass player, became friends before he passed. That really makes me feel good, that me and Rick we were toe to toe. I remember standing in Marty's carport after practice one night and just yelling, "I quit." I'm like, "Fuck you, you're fired," and pushing each other and fucking all this shit. And he fucking got in his car and bailed out, and we didn't talk for years, man, years. And, but it's funny how these things work out, because things just become water under the bridge after a while. And it's really not a big deal, And so it's like, man, I made a mistake. And everyone's like, yeah, you did, but that's okay, or it goes vice versa or whatever it may be, things work out. And there might be one person, but we don't need to talk about that. Anyway.
I think definitely as you get older, you start to appreciate life in general and the relatively short amount of time that we have here and making the most of it with the people that you care about the most.
Exactly. These people, throughout your life, you have to realize, for good or for bad, they make you who you are right now, right this moment in the present. Every person that you've had contact with, and especially the people that, that you play music with, the people that you play music with they help build you as a person. You learn from them, even though you think you're not, man, you're learning. Mm-hmm. You're either learning that you can roll with the punches or you can, or if you really know that you're learning from them, or you learn that not to do things sometimes, you know what I mean? You learn to have boundaries too of what people can do. And these people, it's like, these people are important in your life, really are, all your band members from the Havoc and the metal band that you were doing, these people they're a big, big part of your life, a huge part that make you who you are today,
Yeah. There was a period where Josiah and I weren't speaking for years. And whenever we decided to kind of get the ball rolling again, that was a huge turning point for our relationship. And we were able to talk through things. And, I look back on it and I'm like, man, I learned so much from that guy just by him being himself, because we're two completely different personality types.
Right.
And I think that he learned some things from me too. I hope he did.
Sure. Yeah. Of course.
But you learn to appreciate what each person not only brings to the table musically and for what you're creating together, but what they bring to the table in life lessons, you know, how they
Mhm.
contribute to your experience and the person that you become. So I totally get that.
100%. Yes.
I want to move on to the last segment of this interview. I'm kind of sad that it's the last segment because I could keep talking with you for forever, really.
Oh, we'll get on the phone after this. We'll chat after this. You know that.
Um, but I've really been looking forward to this part of the interview because it's not punk rock talk. We're going to talk about Kiss for a minute. I know how much you love Kiss. I also love Kiss. Uh, so I want to know, first off, what is your favorite Kiss record and why?
Uh, well, my favorite Kiss record is Love Gun. Definitely. You see, I still got the gun right up here out of the record all framed. I got a few of those. Had to frame that one up. But Love Gun has sentimental value to it, and you know, I actually think it has the best Kiss songs on it. But when I was a kid, it's not the first Kiss record that I ever heard. You know, Rock and Roll Over was the first one, and that has a place in my heart as being the first Kiss record I ever heard. And, you know, and I remember the moment I saw that record cover. You know, it's in my head. And but Love Gun, when Love Gun came out, my my grandmother was so cool, man. My grandmother was a fucking coolest lady ever. My mom's mom, and she was amazing. She bought me that album, and she was, yeah. Now you got to think about this: a little old lady in the '70s, reborn Christian. You know, it's but she was so open-minded and so cool. You know, this is at the time when Knights in Satan's service, and they're getting our kids, and you know, like all this stuff. She bought me that record, and she bought me Love Gun, and I was, it just warmed every time I see it or hear it or hear a song off it. I automatically think of my grandmother. You know, not to get off topic, but when I got into punk, she bought me. Actually, I have it right back here. Where is it? Okay, I got a box from her, and in that box was a studded, not studded, but a Christmas tree spiked wristband. Yeah, I think this is about 82, 83. I got this spiked wristband laid out. The Damned, Machine Gun Etiquette, coming from my Christian grandmother, buying me an album by the Damned. And check this out, this book. Now, and my grandmother bought me this. And you know, my grandmother was an amazing woman, really amazing woman. And so when I look at that record or I hear it, it just makes me think of her. And so, and not to mention, I think it's my favorite Kiss album by far. Either way, I think it's got the best songs on it, plays through very well. So there
I
you
love
go.
that record too, and I really love the cover art because I don't know, it kind of is a little more. I don't know, it's sexy for one because there's the women on it that are
Sure,
just
yeah.
adoring them, but something about it being kind of softer, I guess because I don't know if it's like they used oil paint on it or what, but just as a whole, it looks very smooth, and it's just a rad cover.
Yeah, the I can't remember his name, but the artist who did that, he also, you know, did Destroyer, and um uh amazing fucking artist, man.
Yeah,
Wow, that guy. You know, but yeah, it's funny because when you look at that record cover, it's they're all so muscular and
yeah,
and it's super silly. It's just so dumb. But there's still this with the artwork. There's still this presence of, it could have been. It doesn't have to be the ladies down. It could be people or whatever. Whoever. It's they are gods.
Right.
You know what I mean? And just like on Destroyer, they are gods and they're coming out of the rubble. You know what I mean? And so I always like that stuff. It's just like, it's larger than life, man. It's crazy.
Totally. All right, so let's get down to the trivia questions. I've got a few of them here. What was the name of the band co-founded by Gene Simmons?
Wicked Lester.
Yeah. Right off the bat. Awesome.
I should have waited you to finish your question. Okay.
No, that's perfect.
No, Wicked Lester. Yeah, I guess they had put out Paul and Gene started that band. They were introduced by a mutual friend, and they started Wicked Lester, which never really went anywhere. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say that a couple of the songs they recorded on the demo, you can find their demo. It's on YouTube. A couple of these songs, at least riff wise, they did turn into Kiss songs. But yeah, Wicked Lester. Yeah.
Not as memorable of a name. Kiss just really sticks.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, next question. In 1979 through 1980, what country confiscated Kiss records and banned the Kiss logo entirely, forcing the band to create a separate logo specifically for this country?
Tell me the years again.
79 through 80.
79 through, it's Germany.
Correct.
But they did, all those early Kiss records did come out in Germany with that logo. Mm-hmm. They were available, but when they through 79 to 80, and I think it went on after that too for a little while, that they repressed all the records with a different logo on them.
Yeah, they used
so they were available. There are German pressings out there when they came out with that logo on there. But yeah, they stopped and they did the different S on it, and for good reason.
Yeah. Sure that those are highly collectible at this point.
The represses.
Yeah.
The represses are highly collectible at this point. Yes, because they didn't do them for too long. But
right.
Yeah, because you buy them out there now. It's normal. I think. Pretty sure.
Okay, I've got two more for you. What Kiss song united humanity in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey?
Bill and Ted. Oh man.
I wasn't sure if I'd stump you on any of these.
You're gonna stump me on this one, and it's only for the fact that I don't know that movie. I know Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey was the one with the kind of ghoul guy, all right?
Yeah, the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, fuck. I don't know that movie, man. You didn't tell me to sit around and watch fucking crappy fucking comedies.
You want to take a watch? Yeah.
Crappy comedy sequels. No, you stumped me, dude. I really don't know. Should I what Kiss song united the world?
Yeah, united humanity.
United humanity. What Kiss song united humanity?
I'll give you
what's that?
I'll give you a hint. It's from No Makeup era.
Oh, from a No Makeup era. Oh, I told you about that. I don't go past 79. What was popular by then? Lick It Up?
No.
I don't know. I don't know.
God Gave Rock and Roll to You.
Oh my God, what a terrible song that is too. Oh, jeez.
It's at the end.
I will never watch that movie.
It's at the end of the movie. Sure, that segment, like that scene, is on YouTube. You should watch it just to get a good laugh.
Okay, I will. I will. I'll definitely look that up.
Last one. What is the only Kiss album not available on streaming platforms.
The only Kiss album not available on streaming platforms.
Yeah.
And it's so like I'm telling you, I only like go to 79. I can't, I don't, I kind of push the rest of that stuff out, the no makeup era and anything after Unmasked.
Hey, so I kind of figured that this one would stump you, but I wanted to ask this question because I wanted to talk about it for a specific reason.
Okay.
The answer is Sonic Boom. Are you familiar with it at all?
I know the cover of it. It looks really super goofy, like Psycho Circus shit. Yeah.
It's the first record after Psycho Circus.
Oh, makes sense.
And it's the first record to feature Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer.
Okay.
What's interesting about it is musically they went in the early, the early sound. It sounds like it's from the 70s, just with more contemporary production, which was pretty cool. Like when I listened to it the first time, I was like, wow, this sounds like it could be on Destroyer or something. This is pretty cool.
Okay.
But the other cool thing about that record is they also re-recorded a lot of their classic songs from the 70s and 80s and released it as a double volume, but the double volume that has all of those re-recorded songs is only available in Japan. But you can hear those songs on YouTube.
Okay.
And it's really cool because one of the things that always kind of bummed me out about Kiss is like the production value on a lot of the songs is just kind of subpar. And you can tell
Totally.
You can tell like the meat of the song, the riffs and the melodies are cool, but it's just kind of lacking that like oomph.
Right.
But with those songs, they went back and like studied their back catalog, like literally like line by line by line for the songs, because they've evolved so much over the years with how they play them live versus how they, initially recorded them.
Sure.
So going through that process of, relearning how they originally recorded them, those versions, and then re-recording them with contemporary production, it just really beefs the songs up, and it's really
with two, and I hate to say it, better players.
Yeah,
it's Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer are miles over better players than Ace Frehley or Peter Criss, and really, yeah, that's just the truth,
Yeah, it's obvious in the playing, and you know what else is kind of like a trip to me is how similar Eric Singer's voice is to Peter Criss's.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah.
He has that.
Last show I saw is amazing.
Yeah, it's really like incredible that they found somebody that was not only a better drummer but had such a similar voice. I hate that he and Tommy wear the same makeup as Peter and Ace. I kind of wish that they would have just come up with different characters. But, it all comes down to money at the end of the day. And
100%. They're and to be, if everybody, you don't even have to be a Kiss fan to know that they're about money.
Right.
It's all about the gimmick, and you got to think that. So that you're talking about these re-recordings on Sonic Boom, which makes me a little leery. Because if you look back at the first song off the first Kiss record, Strutter,
yeah.
Right? And my favorite Kiss song, 100%, hands down, my favorite Kiss song. And they re-recorded that in 1978, and they put it on double platinum.
Yeah.
As on side 4 on double platinum, and it's fucking terrible. It is the word. I'm like, why do you mess with perfection? So the re-recordings of that it can go two ways, you know. It can go for the better or for the worse. But I'm a little leery because I know they did it on that, and now, but to hear some of those songs with Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer would I might have to go check that out. I have this thing about Kiss when, you know, after 79 or 80, it's, you know, because that was my transition, right? And I was that kid in the 70s, man. You know, if you've ever watched Detroit Rock City, I was that little kid in the fucking Kiss air guitar band in my garage. And, you know, like you know, you see the walls in my house are covered in Kiss. So you could imagine it when I was fucking 6. You know, it was just posters. Everything was Kiss, you know. And, but I so dropped out of that scene about that time. I always held my love for Kiss. I'd go to punk shows in the 80s wearing Kiss t-shirts. People fuck with me, you know, and it's like, fuck you, you know. But there was something changed. Something changed when that original dynamic left. You know, when Peter Criss first left the band, because Peter Criss didn't even play on Unmasked. He's credited on there, but he didn't play on the album. Next album, they got a new drummer. Right. So, you know, and Ace stays with them for a little bit. They cut all their hair off. They start looking goofy. They try to fit in. Now Kiss is trying to fit in into the 80s.
Yeah.
And that was sad.
Yeah, it ruined the vibe.
It ruined everything about them. They didn't have to, because the thing that was cool about that band was they stuck out.
Yeah.
They were a fucking thorn in the side of rock and roll.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to fucking fit in with rock and roll and trying, you know, we're gonna start wearing, you know, more normal clothes. We're gonna cut our hair short, but still wear the makeup and try and get away. Okay, now the makeup's coming off. Now we're dressing like fucking Skid Row, you know, and it's just like, nah, not doing any of this. And I just cut them off. I'm like, I'm not listening to any of this fucking crap. No, yeah. This bums me the fuck out. They lost all integrity.
Yeah.
You know, all the integrity went away. And not that they really had much integrity to begin with all the merchandising and all that shit, you know, but I was the kid that bought all that stuff, you know. and it really let me down. It bummed me out. And I know I'm not alone. I know for a fact I'm not alone. I've had this conversation with many Kiss fans. And just like you were saying, you know, most of the people that we know in bands, and you're talking to Mike or yourself or, you know, talking about Kiss, I guarantee you that everybody in here that hates Kiss, it's listening right now, go, fuck that band. Ask your favorite band what they think of Kiss. And I guarantee you they're going to go, oh my God, they're amazing. You know? So I'm sorry.
I said, yeah, they inspired so many bands.
100%. They made me want to play music, you know?
Well, Bones, thank you so much for being with me today, being my guest here on Punk Rock Talk. It's been a blast talking with you. I can't wait for future conversations. We've had several over the phone recently, and that's just been really awesome. But I hope to have you back on here again sometime in the near future to talk about something else that you're promoting with the band or to talk more about Kiss.
Sounds great, man. Sounds great.
Awesome.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much, dude. Thank you so much for asking me to be on here.
No problem. Before I let you go, is there anything that you want to shout out? Anybody you want to shout out or anything you want to promote?
Well, I want to say it's not just me thanking you guys for, you know, thanking you for the interview and everyone that's kind of tuned in and watching this on behalf of myself and Marty and Ron and Zed and Nick. We all thank you. Thank you so much for coming to our shows and all of that, because we're nothing without the people listening to our music and coming to our shows. We would not exist. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you so much.
Awesome. To everybody out there in the audience, next week, my guest will be no one. We're going to take next week off from Punk Rock Talk. I will be traveling to Southern California on Wednesday of next week to perform with The Havoc, our first show in LA in 8 years. we are going to do a live stream from the show. And maybe we'll do a short Q&A with all of you that join in on the live stream at that time. So until the following week, that's it from me and Bones here at Punk Rock Talk. To play us out, this is I'm a Mess by the Lower Class Brats.
Cheers, brother.
Later.
Stay blessed, man.
I'm a mess.